170,000 years ago. No shops, no fabric, no fashion industry. Just a human, an animal hide, and a decision that would change the entire course of human history. That decision helped our ancestors survive ice ages that killed almost everything else. 40,000 years ago, we were sewing fitted clothing with needles carved from bone. 10,000 years ago, we were weaving fabric from plant fibers. Today, the global fashion industry is worth $3 trillion. $3 trillion. All of it. Every single piece of clothing on every single human alive right now traces back to one moment, one decision, and we still don't fully agree on why it happened. Think about what you put on this morning. Shirt, trousers, shoes, 30 seconds, done. You didn't think about it, you never think about it. But stop for a second and ask yourself something you have probably never seriously asked before. Why do humans wear clothes at all? We are the only animal on Earth that does this. Not the only intelligent animal, not the only social animal, the only animal. A chimpanzee shares 98.7% of our DNA and walks around completely naked every single day of its life without a single moment of discomfort. Every other primate, every other mammal, every other creature on this planet handles existence without a single piece of clothing. So what happened to us? Because something did happen. And tracing exactly what that something was takes us back much further than most people expect, and leads us to some of the most unexpected scientific discoveries in modern history. To understand why humans started wearing clothes, we first need to understand why humans were naked in the first place. About 1.2 million years ago, our ancestors made a fundamental shift. They moved from forests onto open African savannas, and that shift created a problem that would reshape the entire human body: heat. Running long distances across open savanna under a blazing African sun generates enormous amounts of body heat. Most large animals with thick fur simply overheat and stop. Their bodies force them to. But early humans couldn't afford to stop. A hunt could cover miles, hours of sustained effort under a relentless sun. So, over hundreds of thousands of years, the human body made a trade. Body hair gradually disappeared. In its place, roughly 2 million sweat glands spread across almost every inch of skin. 2 million. Scientists who study human physiology point to this as one of the most extraordinary adaptations in the animal kingdom. It made early humans capable of something almost no other large animal could do: run prey into the ground through sheer endurance. Not speed, endurance. Chasing an animal for hours in the heat until it collapsed from exhaustion while the human kept going. But that cooling system came with a cost nobody talks about. The body that evolution built for running was now completely exposed. No fur, no protection, just skin, vulnerable to the sun, to parasites, to infection, and to the cold nights that drop dramatically. Evolution had solved one problem and created another. In 2004, a scientist named Nina Jablonski published research that would reshape how we understand the human body entirely. Jablonski was a biological anthropologist at Penn State University who had spent years focused on one specific question: what does human skin actually tell us about human history? What she found went far beyond warmth and protection. Jablonski discovered that the loss of body hair did something to early humans that had nothing to do with temperature regulation. It made them readable. Suddenly, every emotion, every physiological state, every social signal the body produced became visible on the surface. A flush of embarrassment, a pale face of fear, the reddening of anger, all of it now visible, written directly onto exposed skin for every member of the group to see. Skin became a communication system before clothing ever existed. And that, as we will see, changes everything about why clothing appeared when it did. Now, here is the question that stumped researchers for decades. Animal hides decompose, fabric disintegrates, the earliest clothing left almost no physical trace in the archaeological record. So, how do you figure out when humans first started wearing clothes if the clothes themselves are gone? In 2011, a biologist at the University of Florida named David Reed found the answer in the most unexpected place imaginable: lice. Reed knew something that most people don't. There are two distinct types of lice that live on humans: head lice, which live in hair, and clothing lice, a separate species that evolved to live exclusively in fabric and fiber. They are closely related. But at some specific moment in human history, they split from a single common ancestor into two different species. Reed's reasoning was precise. If clothing lice evolved specifically to live in clothes, then the exact moment those two species diverged genetically must correspond to the moment humans started wearing clothes regularly, enough for an entirely new parasite to evolve around that behavior. So, his team mapped the DNA of both species, traced the precise point of divergence, and published a finding that stopped the scientific community cold. Humans started wearing clothes between 83,000 and 170,000 years ago, older than the oldest known cave paintings, older than the first evidence of long-distance trade, older than almost every other complex behavior we associate with modern humans. Clothing, one of the most fundamental things about being human, turned out to be ancient beyond almost anything else we do. But then Reed's team found something that raised an even bigger question. The first time humans migrated into genuinely cold climates, the kind of cold that kills, was approximately 100,000 years ago, which means humans were wearing clothes for somewhere between 70,000 and 83,000 years before cold weather was even a survival factor. Cold didn't start this. Something else did. In the 1860s, Charles Darwin, the same man who gave us the theory of evolution, was wrestling with this exact mystery. In his book, The Descent of Man, published in 1871, Darwin made an argument about clothing that most people have never heard. He proposed that the most likely driver of early clothing was not practical at all. It was psychological, specifically the uniquely human capacity for self-awareness, the ability to look at your own body through the eyes of others, to feel exposed not from cold, but from consciousness, to sense that something about your appearance communicated something to the group around you, and to want control over what that something was. A century later, in 1967, a zoologist named Desmond Morris published a book called The Naked Ape, a meticulous study of human behavior that treated humans as the animals we actually are. Morris arrived at the same conclusion from a completely different direction. Clothing, from its very first appearance, served two simultaneous purposes: protection on one hand, social communication on the other, and the archaeological evidence supports this completely.